All right. Assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Levant, ex of Brother Levant, ex community reporting. We got a great program today. We are talking to the student ministry of the Nation of Islam and just in general, talking about the prison ministry. We often hear a lot about the men who have served time or who've been in the system, but we want to get the perspective of our sisters. Our sisters are up there in numbers as far as being incarcerated. But we want to introduce the panel of this program. First and foremost, we have student minister Anthony Muhammad. He's been very active in the student ministry for many years. He has helped a lot of people who are behind bars, incarcerated in the belly of the beast, come through the program and been very successful with it. So without further ado, let's introduce brother student minister Anthony Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam.
Brother, give the people that's a little background because the best spokesperson is always the person themselves. So give the people a little bit about yourself, my brother.
Oh wow, I go so far back that some of them probably have them still on their breath after I tell you how long it's been. And I've been in the nation 44 years, and I've been going into the prisons for over 30 years in the Mid-Atlantic region. I just received my ID after going through all kind of tests, all kind of examinations to get back inside of DC jail. And of course, they have females in DC jail, but they make it always difficult to see the other people that are in the prisons that want to be seen by the Nation of Islam. So we go into Patuxent, Jessup, all the federal prisons that are in the Mid-Atlantic region, and we've been doing it for quite a bit of time. And we have quite a bit of people who have come out of the prisons and are doing well after being incarcerated. And the best programs are coming out of the prisons. And now, since someone has been tapping the prison system on their back, they are beginning to reform more than ever before, where inmates can get jobs where they don't have to put, especially in Washington, D.C., time that they serve after 10 years. They don't even have to mention they have been incarcerated in Washington, D.C. They can vote when they get out. They can also, they have a director of reentry in Washington, D.C., where they could go to this agency, get emergency food stamp, get housing, get jobs, get their birth certificate, their driver's license if they had it before they went in, get their social security card, all the documents that they needed to be legally on the streets of any city with an ID, because some states make it a requirement that after you become 21 or 18 that you legally have to have an ID to identify yourself on the street if you're stopped by any law enforcement.
Yes, sir, brother. So on that part, brother, I know you have a lot of information. We want to bring our sister on, Sister Monica, because this is definitely a platform for educating and being informative. And also we want to be a prevention as well. So before I go in, Sister Monica, you there, dear sister?
Yes, dear brother, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Well, let's introduce the panel to you, my sister. Tell them who you are.
Okay, I am Monica Cooper. I run an organization called the Maryland Justice Project here in Maryland, but particularly out of Baltimore City. And I was one of those folks who was the beneficiary of a firm and strong Nation of Islam study group, as I had mentioned, for more than a decade behind a wall. It was outstanding. It was outstanding. If it wasn't for that study group, I wouldn't have stayed as disciplined as I did, and I wouldn't have the level of success that I have had since coming home from incarceration. So I can't really express how important it is to go inside the belly of the beast for our people. It's very important, especially for the women.
Yes, ma'am. So just that's that on alone, you had mentioned that the study guides and the influence of the Nation of Islam was a very key instrumental part of your uh, being where you are today. What was it about the Nation of Islam, that study group, that caught your attention, that told you that, okay, this is what I need for me to be able to sustain or get to where I need to be at? What was it about the study guide?
It was self-improvement that was really helped me to understand what development went, because the prison system certainly wasn't helping me, but the study guide and actually reading the study guide helped me to understand what it meant for me to be self-disciplined, and for me to work on improving myself and my relationship with the law. And I just recall from the study groups reading about how the most honorable Elijah Muhammad went through so much, the trials and tribulations that he went through. So while I was on the inside, the challenges that I faced, I just remembered how the minister was teaching about Jacob, wrestling with the angel, and how Jonah was trapped inside the whale and what those things meant. So I was able to read the study guide and pick up the Quran and just study everything the minister put in those study guides. And it really, really helped me to get myself where I needed to be disciplined and to understand what was going on while I was incarcerated, and what opportunity I had to become a better human being and a better person.
Praise be to him. That was very strong, sister, that you said that. Because one of the things that I shared with Brother Anthony was that we wanted this program to be something where we can help with prevention. And from your perspective, and we can consider you an OG, a lot of us OGs who's been around gotta help with what's the traps that are set up for our younger brothers and sisters. They think they know the game, but they really don't. They're repeating a cycle. It's just a little different with the rules, what have you. But it's imperative that we are teaching, and some of the parents who are seeing this, because the parents that we had years ago when we came up, we had a little bit more of a village, but the village is in dismantle. And you mentioned a lot of key things about self-improvement and development. And those things of self-love, when you self-love yourself, you love your brothers and sisters. You don't want to see harm to them. So, Brother Anthony, this on this part, brother, when you go into the prison ministries and then you hear testimonies where Sister Monica has displayed, what does that do for you as far as knowing that what you're doing is very beneficial?
It makes me want to help the female population even more, because they have no spotlight like the males have. And I know if it was known more and highlighted more, that they would get a whole lot of more help than what they are receiving right now. Like, you can go into any state and ask, how many halfway houses do you have for females? Zero. I have for one. I might one. I think about one. I wish I had one. These are the kind of answers that you get from politicians, legislators, and correctional officers that are in the system of reforming everyone. When they have over 1.5 million females incarcerated, but you only have a few entities that have reform help that are given to female populations,
Yes, sir.
that
But
need
this
to
is
be corrected and need to be pushed even harder than it is being done today.
this on that part, Brother Anthony. When you have meetings or you come across those who are in the political arena, and I want to get to Sister Monica eventually with this question as well. One of the things that I believe that reform, we talk about education and helping those, and we know that we have a system that is unjust. Then you have people who look like us who are in positions of authority, alleged authority. Do those conversations come up when you say, "Hey, where's the halfway house? Where's these programs?" Because you are having mothers who have children inside the prison system. you have so many things in there, and then as we always taught, um, a civilization can't rise no higher than its woman. So, have you ever had conversations with those who are in charge of these programs or helping our sisters out, or women in general?
I can
Yeah, but most of them are held with the outside people because the ones that are inside would say, I'm staying in my lane. I'm a correctional officer. I'm a administrator. That I don't do. I that have no part of that. And we have an agency that's a federal agency that should be called CSOSA. That's an acronym, and I'm not sure all the meanings of it. I'm sure it's community out something, something, something. But they have no information, knowledge on how they are helping female citizens coming back out of the correctional system. So the push needs to be done on a whole lot of levels, not just, and maybe it needs to start at the Senate and the congressional level of the whole entire country that are over Department of Corrections, the directors of correction. That since they are, if you start with the federal level and come to the state level and then to the smaller population, something probably will be done if you start with the Senate, the Congress. And since these are such a minute issue to them when they're dealing with a whole state, that they don't focus on these kind of issues because we have a bigger problems to deal with. We having shootings every day. We having mass shootings every night. We having the budget of the United States getting ready to collapse. So these issues seem to trump issues of human life inside of the places of incarceration for females.
Yes, sir. So, Sister Monica, you was going to
And
chime in.
even
yes, sir.
males who go, well, 90% of the time you'll hear a female say, I'm going to visit my ex or my present that's in jail. I have never, ever heard a male say he's going to visit his wife, girlfriend that's incarcerated.
Yes, sir. Sister Monica, you was going to say something, sister? Adding on to what was
Yes,
asked?
yes, sir. In 2016, my organization went to Annapolis, Maryland, and we were trying to get a few legislators to put in a bill that would reopen the one transitional house that they had here in Baltimore. They shut it down in 2009, and they claimed that it was for financial reasons. Then they claimed it wasn't enough women that had a low level time that they could send in. But this was a 140 bed facility, and women were able to get mental health treatment, treatment with trauma. They were able to get, extensive drug treatment before they were released. This was their halfway house. Well, in 2016, I started that crusade, if you will, and finally, Senate Bill 684 in the state of Maryland was passed in 2020.
Mm.
Governor Hogan vetoed the bill. We came back and got the veto override. And what was supposed to happen is they were supposed to put $2 million into the capital, the operating budget, and 150,000 into the capital budget. We know that that's not enough money to build it, but our strategy was to get it in what they call a line item because the state of Maryland has a budget. And once you get it into their budget in a line item, you can then come back and they can put more money into that line item. But they got to first get it on there. So what they have done since this bill has passed is what I coined as a economic veto. Because even though in the state of Maryland, when you got the supermajority, they can override whatever the governor says. Our Governor Westmore can veto a bill, but the legislators can override him and pass it anyway. So that's what happened. However, when it comes time to put that budget together, all they got to do is just fail to fund it. It's a whole bunch of legislation that have passed, but they never funded. But we stayed on that behind, and we've been in budget meetings, and we've been in those spaces where generally you would see lobbyists at. In these spaces, they're not used to seeing the lowly advocates show up. So when we show up, they might say, "Yeah, well, you got 1 minute." They'll give us 60 seconds to explain to the economic committees, all of those budget committees that handle the money. That's where we need to be. And one of the reasons why we are, still coming up the rear is we don't understand how the game is played. The lobbyists are the ones who really getting stuff done because it's all about the money. The legislators, they are following the money because they might spend 4 years there, but they're not even worried about that $70,000 or $80,000 they're getting. They are doing so many favors for the people with the money. By the time they leave, Constellation Energy going to hire them for $300,000 a year. They're going to go into firms. They're going to go into lobbying firms where they're making 350, $400,000 a year for all of the work they did for the people with the money. Why they come to the church and the mosque, synagogue, and they smile at us. So we got to understand the game, and we got to demand to get into the back room with them. So we've walked away with $10 million because we stayed on. It's still not enough. So we got to keep on staying on them. And they kept telling us, well, it's get ready to be in the budget. We said, we don't see it. We don't care what you said at that press conference. We don't care what you said 30 days ago until we actually see it in the budget, because they got to submit it. And the taxpayer has a right to go. It's this that is thicker than my hand. The budget for the state of Maryland is that thick. But we got to take the time to pick up the book and look and see whether or not they actually put the money in there, or to see where they putting the money at. They funded right now some oyster fund to see if the oysters can smile. That's how they do it. They putting that money in places where you would not believe, and somebody getting it. But I'm not going to monopolize the time about the lack of a pre-release center, and we've been working on it diligently. It's coming, but it took a whole lot of work and a whole lot of strategy.
Well, your point is very valid, and this is something that I talked to Brother Anthony about on the local side of it, where we are funding programs ourselves. We're not a broke community at all, and if people actually knew just over in general where the budget goes to when it comes to the schools and other things that prioritize, people will be appalled. Some people probably already know why they maybe don't have faith or confidence in the system. But for the most part, I believe that this is where the community comes in at, because certain things are off our radar. You know what I'm saying? In reference to the prison system, the school system alone is just as important. You know what I'm saying? How they educate the people and with the stuff they feed the masses. So, Brother Anthony, per our conversation before, brother, what can we start doing at our level, where of course we're using our platforms to bring attention to this? And then a lot of times these politicians do care about what the people want, but sometimes they have a way of influencing the message to some degree, where it takes you off of certain things. They might bring a celebrity in or some entertainer in there to distract the people from the actual things that really matter to the community. So how can we get more boots on the ground to help support the student ministry, where we can start supporting the programs that Sister Monica is doing and yourself, that we can start bringing more attention to this problem?
We have a lesson that says that there are 4,400,000,000 people on the planet.
That's right.
And most of them are women. If women got more involved, it would be done overnight. If women got involved, it would be done. Everything she's talking about would be done overnight. They control all the aspects of a man's life. Who controls the money? And she controls the honey.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
So,
but it's still
and we have another brother that's on the line that's in the prison ministry with me, Brother Elliot. He's on also.
Yes, sir. I see him on it. So, Brother Elliot, if you can make yourself available, brother, I see you came on. Just let us know, and I can see you and chime you in. But you mentioned something also about the sisters or the women in general in charge of these programs, and it still deals with the mindset, whether it be a male or female in charge. The mindset has to be, how do I see the people be utilizing the program for the benefit of those who are funding it, the taxpayers, what have you. So we can have male or female in there, but the ideology is still that of an oppressor. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, yes. But the point I'm making is if us who are being affected by what is going on were more involved, we would get more done. I mean, why are men getting things done or having things done for them, and they not the ones who are advocating the things to be given to them while they're incarcerated? But the men are having help from the outside that the women are not receiving. And as I was stating, if more women got involved and knew more about the conditions that they go under and suffer being incarcerated, we would get more help.
Well, I'm gonna go on that part, and we're taught to always settle on the best part, which I agree with you on that other part. It's the knowing. A lot of
Yeah,
time, a lot of
yes.
people may not know, and maybe some women of influence who may not be in the political arena just don't know either. So perhaps, Sister Monica, what can we do? Would you like to see, because you said that sometimes you go into these meetings and they give you maybe 60 seconds to say something, which is not realistic, but they're just entertaining that they gave you an opportunity to speak your mind. So what would you like to see happen, and what would you suggest, I'm saying, that we can do to help bring more attention to this? Because yes, we have our podcast, we have so many different influences. So what would you like to see, or an idea that we could support to bring more attention to the, Sister Monica?
Well, I'll tell you, I have been elected twice. Just recently won an election
All
for
right.
the Democratic State Central Committee representing the 40th district. I came in, the numbers were fantastic. I'm not going to call the delegate's name. I don't want to embarrass the guy, but I whooped him.
Right.
Yeah, I beat him by about almost 3,000 votes. If I had put my hat in the ring to become delegate, I would be serving 4 years in Annapolis, Maryland, with the rest of the senators and the delegates. I didn't know that many people was going to show up to the polls for me. I ran in 2018, and then I ran again recently, 4 years later. And my numbers tend to increase. And the reason why I'm there in the political space, knocking on people's doors, letting them know who I am, is because I'm trying to demonstrate to our folks that you don't need a whole bunch of money to be about the business of our people and to work and to get elected to go to the state house or the White House. All you got to do is be about your word and be about that work, and people gonna show up for you. I don't have hardly any money running that campaign like some of those folks do. And I just think that that's a demonstration of the work that people do in the community. But the other thing, in terms of what I think we should do, is I'm good friends with Roach Brown's brother out of DC, Ricky Brown. And Ricky got a fantastic idea. Him and myself and Dennis Wise from over here in Baltimore got together. And what we get ready to do is we get ready to form what we consider political power and just power in general. We get ready to form something that's going to look sort of like an ex-offenders union. So we had our first meeting recently because here in Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, our former mayor, had won a mayoral race by a very little. So we can actually put our own folks in those spaces. We have the power to put our people in those spaces. Miss Gladys, that's been living on the block for 40 years, she would be a better leader for us than some of them other job turkeys. So we gotta take the glitter off of it. Usually if somebody got a nice suit, come in front of us, send you a mailer, they have a commercial, then they come on the radio, because it's a playbook they have. And the playbook says that if I want to win an election, I have to touch the voters at least 5 times. And we unfortunately think because we've seen a commercial play repetitiously that we know who these people are. That's how we get bamboozled, but that's the science of it. The science of it says that I increase my odds of being elected if I send out at least 2 mailers, which cost you thousands of dollars. Everybody get it in their mailbox. If I have at least one commercial, if I come on the radio at least 2 times. So we are being bamboozled by the science of politics rather than actually look at our folks and see who actually been on the ground for us. When my son, needs some commissary, is it somebody that can do a fund for me? When my son has been falsely accused, who was there? So I think that getting around ideas like our brother have of forming our power, then we can go ahead and start putting our folks in there. And the last thing I'm gonna say is we have to know how this thing works. You can't build a radio if you don't know what kind of pieces in there. If you don't know to connect the red wire to the black wire and put it on the metal so that you can get the signal to come through so you can get the audio, you can't build no damn radio. We are so busy listening to other people on TikTok, looking at news, all of this stuff. They feeding us artificial intelligence like nobody's business. All that. I want to use some choice words, but I'm not going to do that. The
Right.
FCC might come down on us. But all that stuff is just purity fake, and we gotta really get our mind right so that we can know how it works. We made those people give us that 10 million. We made them give it to us because we kept showing up. We kept trying to find out, well, who is the next person to talk to? Who is this person? You gotta know who to talk to, because when you call, they're gonna be like, yeah, well, the senator, he'll get back with you and he'll send his guy. No, we want to see him. Or if we can't see him, we want to see the person that's next to him that's going to tell him in his ear, these people mean business. Give them that money before they do a Title IX lawsuit against the state of Maryland, before we actually take them to court and embarrass them and sue them. And when you're doing that kind of stuff, you got to have allies that are lawyers. We're fortunate to have a lawyer that's willing to do this work for us pro bono, and he locked and loaded. Because power concedes nothing but power. You got to punch him in the mouth like Mike Tyson and show them, business. That's all they understand. Outside of that, we're going to be standing right outside the door with picket signs. Them people don't care about that. I was getting ready to say something else. Them people don't care about that stuff. I'll say that stuff.
Right.
They don't care nothing about that. They care about who can actually determine whether or not I'm sitting here or not. Who can actually go to the newspaper and put that newspaper article out that will blemish my reputation, that might sully me and may not allow me to go to the next stage. They think about the power, the people who got the power, and that's what we got to do. We got to start acting like we know. Stop being passive, pasteurized, like the ministers say, watered down and homogenized.
Homogenized, watered down
Yeah.
to the T. Praise be to the beautiful word, sister. You had some strong key things, and one of the things that I want to also bring into this.
I think she's on 1209. That 1209.
Yeah, so I got it, brother. So what I want to share is prevention. And one of the things that she did say, because this is an election year coming up, and Sister Monica had said some fundamental things that I constantly bring up to our people. What are we voting for collectively? Like you said, she mentioned a whole lot of issues, a lot of key things, but we're so caught up on the tricks, the games, who they can bring on to Nobody's talking about no issues whatsoever. And when we ask, like you have so many communities that ask for what they want, whether it be better schools or whatever it is, they have an agenda as a whole. We vote with no agenda. We vote off emotions and who smiles the biggest. And being that we talk about the prison population, especially dealing with women, and our vice president of the United States is a black woman who knows the law inside and out. Our former president is a lawyer, knows this, what's going on inside and out. And we understand there's other sharks that's around them to maybe perhaps, for whatever reason they can't or they won't speak on it. But what can we do as a whole to start using prevention and utilizing our alleged voting power more effectively? Brother Anthony, let's start with you because you've been in that arena.
What can we do?
Right. So can we start bringing more attention to this?
Vote for?
Right. Who we can vote for, and then actually starting to striving to get more people aware of the subjects and the things that's going on. Because Sister Monica definitely hit the nail on the head with all the things that she said, and she's absolutely right. We're not focusing on the subject. So you being in that arena, they're saying dealing with politics, the elections and stuff like that, the voting system. How can we start bringing more attention to this? I'm saying so we can start having our people vote with intelligence.
Well, if you want to deal with the prison population, you would have to all the time have press conference right at the jail. You would have to be there knowing this is my focus, this is who I want to help, and this is where I'm going to be until real help is coming. Because we're going to always get a song and dance from the politicians. Because again, they do not produce any income for the politicians to have. They don't have, they can't even campaign for a politician. But what has been done in Washington, D.C., one of the persons who wants to be a commissioner that's incarcerated with this, don't have a felony, can actually run for a political office in Washington, D.C. And they have done this, and they have a commissioner that was in the District of Columbia prison system. And still today, he's out and he lives right across the street in a brand new apartment from the D.C. jail. And now they split that up. He's in there, and now they have another commissioner inside of D.C. jail, because D.C. jail has over 2,000 people in their population. So the person that's inside is representing the inmates that are incarcerated in the jail. So the kind of issues that need to be brought to them, they most definitely could bring to the prisons, because right now they are able to have a laptop. They have re-entry programs that they can begin to acquaint themselves with computers, phones, before a year before they are released from the prisons, so they won't be totally mute from what the new technology that will be following them if they get in trouble today. The phones, the cameras, the listening devices. If you get in trouble, 90% of them already have told on themselves on Instagram.
Yes, sir.
90% of crimes end up getting solved on Instagram. So they are acquainting the released prisons with these apps that will get them locked back up. This is some of the things that need to be taught before they come back on the street. Yes, because some of them have a mindset, I'm going to do what I did before to get in here. Because now I know how to do it better.
Yes, sir. Well, just on that note, brother, I believe we have Commissioner Woodland on with us. Is that correct? All right, you want to bring the sister on because I know she has, I don't know how much she heard, but we want to bring our sister on. And sister, thank you for being on. I know you had some technical difficulties, but every voice is very important to this matter because we do care about our sisters and then women in general. So this is not just talking about the Black woman, but women in general, because the higher we raise our women, the higher and we raise our civilization. So it's a key thing that we support and back up our women. So, Sister Commissioner, the floor is yours, sister. So, how much have you got involved? Because we're talking about the incarceration of our women. So, what part do you feel that we can do better at?
Mm. That's a loaded question. It's so much that needs to be improved. I'm happy to say that I haven't been to jail in quite a while, but I am a returning citizen, and I'm also a felon. Um, but it's that's a loaded question. So when you ask that question, are you speaking more on terms of what can be improved inside of the actual prison system, or how we can go about not making us go there at all?
Well, let's do it prevention. Because one thing is we want to get our women and our sisters out of there, right? But one of the things that we want to stop is the revolving door. And there's a lot of things that we can introduce because, as Sister Monica was speaking earlier about the budget, and we look at the educational system, the things that that we entertain, and now that Brother Anthony also spoke about the internet, the cell phones, so many different influences. What can you share from your perspective of any sister that may be watching this or any woman in general, the decisions that she make, the company she gets involved with, the man she gets involved with, those different variables have a lot to do with the environment that you're in. Because sometimes we can be in a bad environment, but we don't have to be of it. So what can you suggest to those as far as a preventative measure to help some of those who are watching this?
Mm. Well, all loaded statements, but I really feel like we just need to go back to basics as a people. Um, I think some people may disagree with me when I say this, but I feel like our people, in a sense, are too free and are very much emboldened. You get away with doing something, you're going to keep getting away with doing it until you get caught. And then that's when the sentencing and everything, take take root. What they don't tell us is all those no paper charges that we get when we go to court. Those no paper, they throw these things out, but then when you commit something that's what they figure is a little bit more serious, all of those thrown out charges actually play a big part in your actual sentencing. But I think, if let's just say this for me, I would get arrested, get right back out, get arrested, get right back out. And that was a continuous thing for me until I done something which was, really bad. Um, I honestly felt like if I would have gotten, just from the criminal aspect of myself, if I would have had a more supportive family that didn't groom me into this lifestyle, because a lot of what I learned from my own family members, because they did what they know and they taught us how to do what they know. So I didn't have my grandmother, she was positive, but she was older, right? So I didn't have, and my mother is only 19 years older than I am. My father is 22 years older than me. So we didn't have anyone to say, this is what you should not do. This is how your life should be. You should go in this direction. We didn't have that kind of family support, that kind of neighborhood support, to kind of see that we're going in the wrong direction and then turn us about. So it's like everything that I learned, I was turned on to it by my own family. And woo, I honestly feel like if I would have gotten my sentence the very first time I committed a crime, I would have been less likely to continue with that pattern. I think I would have learned my lesson. And I didn't learn my lesson until I actually went to jail, that's when I kind of figured out like I shouldn't have never been doing this, and this is not where I want to be. But when you just do not have the family supports, I grew up in a time where I think we all probably did, where what happens in my household stays in my household, right? So then you didn't have the support to speak about what you were going through, your family dynamics, right? And then if anybody outside of your family dynamics dare to get involved in that, it was the mind your business from the elders, right? So in some sense or another, we grew up what our family dynamics or how the inner workings of our family was. It was secret to everyone else, but we knew what took place in our own household. So for me, I just feel like our community as a whole just need to get back to basics, where we are more uplifting of each other, and where we can kind of help when we see what's transpiring or happening, turn them around and let them know like this is not what you need to go through. I really think that to do that and to be effective with it, we need to get in contact with the younger generation of people that's coming up. I would love to fight for a law in the District of Columbia that will allow kids to be emancipated without going through child and family services to do so. So at my house, I have a 2-bedroom apartment. My daughter is 19 years old. She has a lot of friends that do not have it's so common now. She has a lot of friends that just do not have good community connections or good family support, and they take flight away from home. A lot of them are already CFSA involved. I would let them come over to my house and spend the night. They can't live in my house, but I don't mind feeding them. I don't mind them taking a bath. I don't mind them washing their clothes. I don't mind them coming spend a couple of nights, or things like that, right? But what I learned from doing that when I was trying to help a couple of them become emancipated was that they couldn't just become emancipated, even though they knew that their family structure was a danger to them. And this is why most of them abscond and they leave home in the first place, because their houses be trap houses. The mother or whoever in the house got so-and-so coming in, hiding drugs, hiding guns. And the realization of all of that is they don't want to learn that behavior. They would rather be free, but because of their age, they can't be free. So they just abscond. And then when they abscond, they connect with the wrong people and they go through a whole grooming process. Like this is still happening like to this day. Is the ones that we really need to attach ourselves to let them know, let them be able to recognize the grooming for one, because they don't recognize it. It looks so much like support, right? So they need to be aware of it. They need to be able to recognize it. And then we need laws to allow these kids to be emancipated from what puts them in danger, instead of have to be committed to child and family services agency and possibly held until they're 18 or 21.
You had some good point. And I see Sister Monica, I definitely want to get her point. And you had some great points, sister, and one of the things that you're doing, I commend you, is you see from your experience, and sometimes you see patterns. And this is where we said prior to you coming on that a lot of our young generation think they're doing something new, but it's all the same thing. There's nothing new that they're doing. It may be done in a different manner, but it's nothing new. We're trying to break that cycle. So, Sister Monica, just the same thing, and I know you have some things you want to chime in. We want to deal with prevention, and that is a key thing for us where that budget can go at. If we can actually stop that revolving door, this will help out with actually dealing with those who are already incarcerated, right? So that's right there, puts a cork on the budget where we're just dealing with the situation because these are the numbers we want to deal with. We don't want them to go up. We want them to stay flatline. But the prevention is key because, of course, anything dealing with the prison system is a $1 billion industry. I don't think this is not no hustle. And we pretty much know that this is a hustle because they don't build prisons when they're not making money from it. So from your perspective, what can we do in reference to the prevention and then add it on to what our sister was speaking about, just having facilities for these people to come on and actually address having places for them um go to re-educate, because you did speak very candidly about self-development, and that's very important. So the floor is yours, Sister Monica.
Yeah, sure. I guess the first thing I would say in terms of prevention and how we stop the bleeding is by simply controlling the information. Whoever controls the information controls the mind of the people.
Mm.
We haven't done enough to have media platforms that our folks can buy into, whether that's print, whether that's damn TikTok, whether that's YouTube, wherever folks get that information from. Sometimes you can do something as simple as a survey and say, "Hey, where do you get your information from?" Most of them get their information from online. I get my information, they say, from Facebook. I get my information from here. So a lot of folks not sitting down reading print, whatever you put out there, monthly newsletter or whatever. So to me, when you control the information, you can control how people receiving the truth. When you can control the information, that's number one. And number two, we have to learn how to be self-sufficient when it comes to creating organizations and creating shelters where young people can go to. There's so many ways where we can get some money. Everybody from the streets, but they don't turn their street knowledge into transforming. Like you selling bricks of cocaine, but now you can sell cakes that you made if they're good and healthy and wholesome cakes. You can go and buy $5 worth of ingredients, and out of that $5 you can make yourself 3 cakes, and the 3 cakes you charge $5 a piece. So in street terms,
No, you
shuts you
good.
up.
You good. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it 100.
Yes, sir. So in street terms, you up $10. And we gotta learn how to take it slow. In West Baltimore, they used to have an old man used to walk around dragging his feet, and he sold candy apple sticks. And he was filthy rich. But you would never be able to look at this older man and tell him all he did was drag that little cart around and sold sticky apples. So them little dollars, they add up. When you get yourself 50, then you flip that again. Say, man, I'd have bought me 30 organic apples. I'm going back and buy 75 now. And we gotta stop trying to be a part of this capitalistic monster and get outside of the box, right? I'm gonna give you an example. I got a brother that's got a farm that he working on up in Pennsylvania. We're gonna do a lot with that farm. And I had a couple of dollars. He got a van, and I need a van. So I say, all right, look, brother, look, I'm gonna help you get these Home Depot supplies. In exchange, you give me the van because I got a computer class. The brother's been down 30, 40 years. So when they come out, we take them to our computer class and get them, where they need to be. But that's almost like a bartering system. You got something I need. I got a plug with Home Depot. So I'm gonna get the guy to get you the Rust-Oleum, to get you the paint for the bonds, the whole. Now we survived this long by being outside of the system. They pushed us out. Didn't want us to have jobs, but we still here. So we knew how to take a bag of rice and take some flour and turn that flour into gravy. And then you had rice and gravy, and everybody's stomach was tight. So we got to get into the mindset of operating outside of this system. The system wasn't created for us, but we keep on trying to figure out how can we survive in this matrix. We can't survive in the matrix. So the OGs, we gotta step back and remember in 1945, how did we eat? It damn sure wasn't because a white man gave us a job. We still ate. So I'm just saying, and to get back to the point, because I go on and on.
No, you on. Let the
tell
spirit
break,
speak. You
tell, tell
doing
her break
doing
it
well.
down. But to controlling the information, the other thing is like Brother Byron Allen. He just got this fantastic bit of money from the Weather Channel. Those folks with means, but sometimes them Negroes forget.
Mhm.
They forget when they get where they at, and not realizing that just $500,000 out of the cajillion dollars that he got could allow us to have a storefront. Because for me, I want to be completely free. I don't want no grant money from somebody that's going to tell me what I can say. I don't want no money and no handouts from no Bill Gates, all that money they give it away. I don't want handouts from these people in that way. For me, if you really want to see me successful, give me a couple of dollars and get out my way. Don't get a building in my community. You own the building. So if we do something that you don't like, you can put us out. I'm into ownership. So when we have these programs, we got to own these buildings and they can be self-sufficient. There's a way that the building and the programs can pay for itself. So we got to, again, figure out small ways of having young people sell t-shirts. They get the press, they sell the t-shirts, you teaching them how to have businesses of their own, and you're also showing them how we can keep this building going. If you're growing some food, if you got a garden, like everybody's growing an urban garden, that's your grind right there. You're growing your own food. The children, they play in the dirt and they love it. And that little bit of money will help to keep the building, the lights on, the building that you own. So once we start seeing complete ownership, being totally self-sufficient, then we'll get to see our success. Because them people ain't giving us nothing unless we punch them in the mouth and make them give us something as taxpayers. But
Yes,
even bigger than that, is so that we don't have to keep on going to Annapolis, going to Congress, going to the Senate. That's an even better deal. An even better deal is take care of yourself, grind together, own them buildings, later for them grants. It's enough material wealth and it's enough wealth in our community where we can be self-sufficient. And when kids start seeing that, they start respecting you. When kids start seeing that I don't have to sell this dope, I can go out here, sell these waters, these Gatorades. We see them on the corner all the time because they get it. And when they put that little $20, $30 in their pocket, they can go get a box of chicken and fries and cheese steak. That stuff feel good to them.
Yes,
So
sir.
now you got to allow them to do it on an even bigger scale. I know they feel wonderful with that little $30 they done grind and got and can go and eat whatever they want, donuts, popsicles. So we just got to feed that energy because they already out there doing it. We just got to feed it. That's all.
No doubt. Sister Willow, you got something you want to add on to that, sister?
Yeah. One of the problems with that though is that these young guys out here, they steal a car in less than an hour and they get $600, right? And then imagine if they stealing about 5 cars a day. They making more money stealing cars and selling drugs than they would t-shirts, right? I think one of the biggest problems that we have is when they're so street involved, a regular job or regular ways of making money is not enough to get them off of the street because they've already adapted to getting this kind of income in their pocket. So it's like, at one point, the mayor was going to pay criminals to stop committing crimes, right? And even with the money that she was planning on paying them, still wouldn't have been enough to stop crime. Not when you look at data and it shows, like I live in Ward 8, Southeast. And when you look at data and it shows how long, like how often it takes for a car, how often it takes a car to get stolen over in Southeast, how many carjackings we might have in a day. Then you gotta kind of like do the math with that, because when they steal those cars, sometimes they hold those cars because they plan on doing drive-by shootings with them. But then the other piece to that is when it's a certain type of car and they stealing them, they flipping them. They flipping those cars, right? Those cars become the chop shop vehicles, and then they start tampering with the VIN numbers on them, and they sell them to people who can't afford those cars. So if they're making, and I'm just doing like a baseline figure, if they're making anywhere near what I think they may be making for that. Like if so, if they doing $600 a car, and let's say they steal about five cars a day, they done made $3,000 in a week. See, we gotta find another way of getting them to change their lifestyle where it's not so driven by money. One of the things that I wanted to teach some of them about, if I can get them to buy into my concept, is about the trucking business, because it literally has no ceiling and you can get into all forms of trucking and make so much money from doing it, right? One of the places I wanted to introduce them to is a company called Waco. It's on Ritchie Road. They can literally, as long as they have a driver's license, they can go to U-Haul and get a 10-foot box truck, a 20-foot box truck. You can get up to a 26-foot box truck without even having to have a driver's license, right? And then they can start their own package and delivery company, and they can make their own money. They'll be too tired to be out here shooting or doing anything else, because you got to get started at 4:30 in the morning. But one contract can be up to anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 a month, right? So it seems like teaching them what we know about them is that they can manage business because they manage the streets and they manage getting this income, and they don't recognize this yet, but how they doing all of this is some form of business structure. So if we can teach them how to change that and flip that around to utilize that to be better people, then I think that'll be good. But the way things are set up now, if they making $3,000 in a week, this low money is not enough to pull them off the streets.
Well, let's put it this way, sister. And I got the ideology that Sister Monica was utilizing, because you're saying somewhat the same thing, but just different forms of transaction. So we're still talking about business. Now, there's a made up mind and a corrupt mind. So whether you have a corrupt mind, you're gonna stay doing what you're doing regardless. But to those who don't want to look after, it has to be very uncomfortable. Understand, to always have to watch over your back, or if you do something wrong on a daily basis, that your freedom is gone, because there's no price that you could ever put on your freedom. Because
Right.
you can do all the stuff that you want, make 3 grand, 10 grand, what have you. And I've been around the best of them. I'm originally from New York. And the one thing they said was, you can't compromise your freedom, because once all that glitter and everything goes, and you're in that small little cell, you sitting there thinking, yo, I miss my family. Certain things start outweighing one another. You see what I'm saying? Unless you really that wholehearted. But you're from my understanding, I've never been locked up before, but those who have been, it changes you dramatically when they put the handcuffs on you. It changes dramatically when they close that cell, and then you're equal with everybody else. So whatever you made in the street, when you get behind bars, depending on what's going on in that system, you got to fall in. So why not, as me and Brother Anthony always said, he said very excellent, it's the conditioning of the thinking. And then one of the things that I'm gonna stick to is, because Sister brought it up in the beginning of the program, self-development. Self-development means that you rise above emotions to the thinking of a God. So when you think along those things, you tap into who you are, and you start waking up. Because a lot of people who did wake up and say that, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. They're saying you start finding self, because our nature knows when something's not right. Just like when you see something ain't right, you tell them and sisters, hey, you can spend the night because you know something's wrong, but you know that in your sphere, you have something that can help protect them, even just for that one evening, they're not in harm's way. So it always boils down to choice. Just like somebody who has a job, hey, I can make 3 grand very easy, but once again, it depends what more I want. So how do I apply my knowledge? I can apply my knowledge for the good, or I can try to do something and risk it all being greedy. And sometimes I think it's the choice words that we use to get to these people, young people, or people in general. What choices you make? The choices you make, you're on your own on it. Now, if you want to be part of the program that we're talking about, as far as flipping, investment, business, you don't have to be dirty to do business. I'm saying being dirty is a choice because it's fast, but you want something that's sustainable. So when you hit a certain age, you're not starting from scratch. Because I know a lot of people who are gangsters, they get out of jail now, they're 60, 70 years old. what they're going to do, because right now the game has changed. You see what I'm saying? Now they have less time than they have behind them now. So I do believe that changing the mindset is very key. I'm gonna definitely agree with we said in the beginning, self-development. There's a choice. Those who want to do right, I'm with you on that program, the trucking program. Hey, if you want to sell product, a product is good, sales. There's a lot of people making billions and trillions of dollars. Look at Amazon. Amazon deals with sales. They don't manufacture a thing. They take other people's products and just mail it to you in a day in advance. He don't manufacture anything. He mathematically came up with an idea on how can I get other people's products in my system, and all I gotta do is deliver it. And he's a multi-billionaire. He's not selling no drugs that we know of. He's not selling anything illegal. He just sat there and used his mathematical genius to come up with a concept. And he's not looking up behind his back, over his back. Now people are coming to him because he has influence. He has the capital. He can make moves. A criminal can only make but so many moves. That's not power. So that's where we have to start sharing with the people who are doing these atrocities that there's no power in what they're doing. Brother Anthony?
That's correct. Self-development, which will keep you on the planet longer than fast money. Fast money goes fast. It doesn't, you don't keep it long. The more you have, the more you spend. More money, more problems.
And that's pretty
More
much it.
money, more problems.
Yes, sir. And we want to definitely support what Sister Monica's doing. Um, Sister Woodland, we want to definitely support what you're doing. So we want to have some closing words, and we would like to continue this because we don't want to this just to have a meeting, just to be having a meeting. One of the key things that we shared with Brother Anthony was we want to participate in helping out the student ministry and whatever umbrella that's underneath that, bring attention to these programs. And we have control now. It's not like it was before where we actually had to run to the press. We have control of our own media platforms. So let's use these platforms to actually bring attention to these things. So we want to send out some closing words. And Brother Anthony, I'm gonna let you go last, but I want to start with Sister Monica, then Sister Woodland, and get the final closing words on what we can do with an action plan. Because I believe that if we can pick a project, just one that we could be successful with, because sometimes when we try to challenge a lot of different projects, people want to see a victory. So perhaps if we can find a halfway house that helps out our sisters, halfway house that may help out the brothers. But if we can get one victory, say that we did it with the dime of the people. Nobody funded us but us. That we control it. So nobody, once we buy it, we control how it operates. But if we can get one victory and the people can see that we did something to help the masses, I think that we can start getting the movement. So your closing words, Sister Monica.
I think the idea of having a collective returning citizens union of sorts, to get behind that idea that Brother Ricky from up there in DC is bringing here. It's a Maryland DC connection so far. I think we might eventually reach out to VA, but right now it's a Maryland DC connection. Once we get 100,000 members in DC, PG County, in Maryland, Baltimore City, and then we can really hone our power. But one collective group with one voice, speaking with one voice, we can really shake some things up, and that's whether that's politically, that's financially, that is yeah. I think if everybody was to get on that one page and get under that one returning citizens union, that would be a great start where we would have money and power.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Woodland, the floor is yours. What can we do collectively? You're saying that we can definitely start putting focus and emphasis on that from your perspective. Closing words.
Mm, I like what you said, Miss Cooper. I like that. That was beautiful. I would love to see that come to fruition. And can offer my help any kind of way whenever you get started.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So I don't have exact closing remarks, but I just feel like I can just say it again. We as a people just need to get back to basics where we are able to um, look out for each other, teach one, um, and get back to the process of being community and community driven. It's lacking. Neighbors don't know each other. Um, Things happen when people don't look out for each other. So I just feel like we need to just start there, get back to basics, because we're not standing as a collective anymore like we used to years ago. It's been lost for some time now.
Praise be to Allah. Now, going to my brother here, and I heard everything that Sister Monica said and Sister Willis said, and Brother Anthony, per our conversation, my brother, the key component has always been family structure. And as we've been taught that family is the cornerstone of our community. And once the system has broken up the family unit, we can see the chaos that we are dealing with, where the student prison ministry has to be brought to light because it has its consequences behind it. Um, what can we, from your perspective, take what the sister said and start actually going forward with the program? Because a lot of people want to hear solutions. Sometimes, we do things and we give speeches, but what action items can we actually start putting fruition, utilizing what Sister Monica said and what Sister Woodland has said as well? What can we do to start putting these things together, Brother Anthony, from the ministry?
One thing is really get rid of that name, returning citizens. Returning to what? It's because you're asking about the family. I'm returning to what? Hell? I'm going right back to jail, coming back out on the street. The groups that have the most influence don't have nothing that connects them with being incarcerated. The Innocent Project don't have nothing to do with project. I would like to call it a freedom project. Freedom project, because why connect me with something being incarcerated, returning citizens, and I'm not a citizen? I don't even get the benefit of being a citizen. I'm 3/5 of a human being, still documented on and in the Constitution that they would like to always say it was amended. Oh, it's still documented. I still can read it. My children, great grandchildren can read. Wow, you used to be 3/5 of a human being. That should be an ongoing, constant removal of in the Constitution of the United States. That's one big project that should be taken on. Remove it totally out of the Constitution. We never were 3/5 of a human being. That goes along with the whole project. Change the name. We're not returning citizens. Change the name. Get rid of that. We have no connection with returning as a citizen. Where did I go? Where was I at? In hell? Because I'm not coming from hell back into heaven. I'm coming from hell back into another hell. I would like to say freedom. Freedom, and constantly working on being free. Because if I'm not constantly working on free, I'm going back, I'm returning to hell. And if I can stay out of going to hell, because right now, she said 100,000, it is enough projects, it's enough entities that are that exist, that is a whole lot of jail projects, jail names that's out here that have enough, more than 100,000 people that's involved with returning ex-cons that exist right today. They just all separate. And of course, the white ones get the most money. The white ones have the most influence over the prisons. Anytime I go inside the prison, they have a daily word in there, free. Catholic Bibles, free. The biggest project inside of the prison is the Catholic Church. They have the most projects, they get the most money, they have the most influence, and they get the life of those inmates in their hands more than any other group that exists. We can talk about Islam all we want. The Catholic Church has the biggest influence over the prisons in the whole United States. That also needs to be rearranged, because before they had chaplains from the Muslim or chaplains from any group, the Catholic Church, the priests were inside the prisons first. They were the first religious community inside of the jails. And they did and have done, quote unquote, the most damage. Like she said, they mentored those little girls to become criminals. Imagine what they are mentoring inside of the prisons from the Catholic Church inside. Isn't it a wonder that all that they have done, no one goes to jail? No one even get charged. They may get transferred. If they molested people, they get transferred. They don't go to jail. And our children constantly hearing this. It's being played on the radio all the time. Oh, they got transferred. They went somewhere else. Oh, they paid out enough money to the people that they affected and they are molested. But nobody goes to jail. Oh, they buried all the babies underneath the convent. No one goes to jail. And we are hearing this daily. No one goes to jail. No one even gets charged. No one even is charged. So when we have these conflicts that the children are hearing, those that are in authority, quote unquote, those that are in a certain group don't get charged. Certain groups don't even get mentioned. And until those, that's the big picture, but the little one is bringing groups together to make these changes. So if we could contact all of the groups and ask them to focus on the female population and get all of those legislations that we would like to be changed to affect the female population, that would be something that can be done. Write letters to all the entities that deal with inmates that are out of the prison. Write letters to all of them with the legislation that we would like all of them to support.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. So this is what we do, Sister Monica and Sister Woodland. Brother Anthony, of course, he's the POC when it comes to the student ministry, prison ministry. And we would like to continue this and bring light to it. And then any projects that I can help out in as far as bring attention to, what have you, I'd be more than happy to use my platform. I do have a newsletter as well. That, you know, anything that you want to put in the newsletter, because there's no such thing as too little, what's the word I'm looking for? Exposure. There's no such thing, because all it takes is one person to read something and want to get involved. So sometimes when we want to get a certain fish, we got to cast a broader net. Yes, ma'am.
One last thing. The other thing I want to mention is training. Like, one thing that we usually lack is that, you know, when they had those sit-ins, they actually had to train themselves to keep their composure when somebody was pouring something on their head, so they don't punch nobody in the face. So they did all these simulations. Like, suppose somebody come and spit on you while you're sitting at the counter, and they sit there and they took it. Suppose somebody pour something on your head. So when we go into situations, a lot of times we don't have training and we don't have enough knowledge of the thing that we're speaking on. Everybody in your group, everybody that you're rolling with should be able to eloquently speak about the debt ceiling. If we going in and addressing that, everybody should be trained and taught and have knowledge about the debt ceiling. That's the other way that people buy into it. If people just following, eventually they fall off. But if you give them that knowledge and they really feel in their heart, man, I'm a fight for this because this, and this. So when we come together in groups, we really have to set aside time that's specifically designed for training, for knowing the history of what we're doing, for knowing where it came from, for knowing what it is. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. That's that's how we lose because we don't really know what we're talking about sometimes. We just following.
Right. Sister Monica, I want to say this with Brother Anthony too while you're on here. Can we just start doing maybe some live in some locations? I got some locations in mind, but just having small town hall meetings is very effective. Because it's one thing to do things online, but it's a whole different ball game where we can sit down, people raise their hand and ask questions with the spirit of having a solution. And this is one thing that I always emphasize. It's good to have these conversations. The solution, action items, those things people are more attached to. This way you can hold accountability. So if somebody says, "Hey, I want to improve myself," then we say, "Hey, come to this program that we have a thing set up for the people, so this way they can actually see the movement and the changes they want." So can we put some maybe once a month or once every other month that we could do a student prison ministry town hall meeting, or we can name it whatever, what I'm saying, where we actually can have platforms and then invite people out to ask those hard questions. Then we can, then what we can do, Sister Monica, since you're in Sister Woodland, invite those lobbyists out. If they don't show, we can say we can actually say without defaming their
names and say their name.
Say their name, but we can say, "Hey, we invited so and so, but they didn't come." Let that stay out there and linger. You ain't got to add no fuel to it,
right?
Because it's actual facts. We invited, we didn't show. So therefore, if a press conference comes up, we can let the media know, "Hey, we invited them to have these conversations, but they never showed up on a few occasions." So now we start having accountability because now they didn't want to face the questions. And guess what? Just like we control the economic part of we own the building, if we own the town hall meeting, there's no 60 seconds that anybody gets to speak. We control that. They can't shut us up if we say something that's factual because it's our town hall meeting. Now they actually got to deal with not the consequences. They actually got to deal with actually having a conversation with us without actually having that safety that if a hard question comes up, they cut your mic off or they have you escorted out. As long as you're not being uncivilized, I think that there's no reason for that. So that's just a suggestion from my end that we should have some town hall meetings, maybe once a month, once every other month. And then from the influences from all three of you, that I think we can have an excellent program. And guess what? When people come to these meetings, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody's recording everything. You got your publicity right there by itself because everybody's recording because it's saying something that hits home. And guess what? One good soundbite, all you need is one. And the miraculous thing about social media is it hits the millions quickly, especially if it's something strong. So all we got to do is say again.
You imagine having an X in 100,000 X inmate march.
It can happen. Why not? Why not? What it takes is the proper way of doing it, proper sitting down. And I believe that because you three are actually into the program, it can happen. And I'm gonna hold y'all accountable because I'm gonna ask the questions to Brother Anthony. Hey, what's the follow-up on what we plan, we discuss. So that's where I come in at. Because I love what Sister Monica said. I love what Sister Woodland is doing with the young sisters. I commend those things. And I love what Brother Anthony's doing. And I will definitely hold it as a private journalist. I want to see these things come to fruition and actually bring it up every time I can, saying, like I said, we only need this one person. So I appreciate y'all giving the time for this very important topic. And we want to definitely talk about it again. You know what I'm saying? And then anything I can do, like I said, just to get it out there. This is hard work. This is not easy. There's no overnight. And there's always more than one answer to a problem. But if we don't sit down and at least try to address the problem, then it just be unsolved. So we definitely want to thank our family and the panel for being part of this. It's your brother. May Allah continue to bless you. And I pray that anything that was said today wasn't offensive, but it was very effective to have change. Just the words of our sisters, you know, business, sales. There's a choice between it. There's good business and bad business. Bad business is when you're killing your people for your own selfish gain. There's nothing to be proud of that, and nothing to be honorable about genocide or causing somebody else's harm so you can eat. Because when you try to feed your family, you're destroying another. So there's something to think about. So this is your brother. Inshallah, we talk again. Assalamu alaikum.